Everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, another episode of Sales and Cigars. So today our guest is Ryan Snaadt, who's let's just say he's a video guy. I'm going to just leave it there. He has courses on his website to help people that want to get into video. He's got some great stuff on his YouTube channel for people that are trying to understand how to use video in their business. So if you're an entrepreneur or a salesperson or somebody that's trying to get started and build some credibility on social media, Ryan talks a little bit about a strategy, sort of a pyramid of ways to approach this. What you probably want to start with, what you might want to do as professional, and then what you can do yourself to start to build that. It's a cool little metaphor he's built out. So go grab a cigar, grab a cocktail, and strap in for another episode of Sales and Cigars. So Ryan, welcome to the program. I appreciate you taking some time out of your morning to have a little chat.
Yeah, Walter, thanks for having me.
So, why don't you give a little background on why you started your business, how you started your business, because you got a cool backstory, and we can jump off from there. I got a couple of questions for you. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. So first off, my name is Ryan Snaadt. It rhymes with odd. Everybody always struggles with the last name, so I just like to get that out there right away.
But you have a cool way of doing that on your website and your LinkedIn. It's like it rhymes with odd, so it kind of helps people get to where they need to go.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I'm from Central Iowa originally, and still live here now. So I always say my story kind of started in college. Sophomore year of college, I was going on a trip to Europe, and I got gifted a GoPro for Christmas to kind of document my journey while I was there. And when I went there, we were all over Europe, so I was taking videos and whatnot, raced home and got a free editing software and just immediately started trying to put this really cool travel video together. And I would say that's kind of what got me hooked, is I was like more excited about making a video about my trip than the actual trip at some point. So, so came back, started really getting excited about that. And then I would say kind of my starting point in my business was a couple months later, I was working at Target and there was a camera on sale. It was like a $500 Canon T5, which is not a video camera. It's like a photo camera for your mom that wants to take pictures of her kids. And like, it's not the type of camera that you make a business out of. But so I bought that camera for $500, and in that first year made over $10,000 with it, just from shooting client videos, things around campus, different things for small businesses. And I was doing it just whenever I had time. And I was like, holy crap, if I can make this kind of money as a broke college student, like what happens if I actually take this seriously and I get better camera gear and I, target the right people? And that's really kind of how my business started about 7 years ago.
That's a hell of a return, $500 with 10,000 in revenue.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then the funny thing was I turned around and sold the camera, and they retained their value so well. I sold it for about as much as I bought it for. So it's kind of just a crazy thing with the depreciation there. So yeah, I started the business in college that way. And then fast forward, I graduated. I ended up working for a video production company here in Des Moines with about 20 employees. And I was like their marketing strategist. So clients would come in and we'd shoot this really high scale, high cost production for them. And it was kind of my job to figure out where it was going to go, how the ads would run, how the funnel would work, all the whole sales strategy behind it, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. Ended up leaving that company after 4 years of working there to go full time with my own business, though, because I was working nights and weekends. I took all my PTO, not to go on vacation, but to do more client work for my own business. And it was growing much more fast than I thought it would. So that's kind of the overview of how my business really started. And it's been a really fun journey. So
that's a cool story. Like the Target camera to just, learning the business, working for somebody, and just keeping that sort of side gig going, and then it turning into a real business that supports you. It's a great little story. So let's talk a little bit about. I want to get to some of the stuff on your website, but the idea that video right now is a really important marketing tool for entrepreneurs, for small business people, to be able to tell a story, and being able to relate who you are to people in a much much more efficient fashion. Can we talk a little bit about the types of video and what you see the real value from your perspective of video for a small business?
Absolutely. No, and I might be really biased because it's what I do for work, but I think video is really one of the most important and biggest impact things you can do from a marketing standpoint. I mean, people, especially if anyone's listening that has a team, you might have somebody that just does blogs or just does social media. If you have really engaging, high value video content, it really just elevates, where you can be. You think about people that are really good on stage, if they can speak or if they can write books, like those are avenues to get in front of people with a message. And video is the best way anymore because people have small attention spans. It's like fast
Yes.
grab, attention grabbing type thing. And it's a really good way that you can communicate one, your message, but kind of also who you are. So from my own personal brand standpoint, I put out a bunch of videos because I want to practice what I preach and share things on social. I was just on a call yesterday with a potential client that I've known for 4 years. And they're like, dude, I see your stuff everywhere. Like, it's on LinkedIn. I see it on my YouTube feed. I'm getting stuff on Instagram Reels. Like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, well, it's like trade secret, like work with me and we'll figure it out, type thing. So I think it's a part of just like being top of mind. The old school way to do it was sending direct mail, then it evolved to email, like being in someone's email inbox. Now I think that current version of being in front of someone is having videos on social media and just being everywhere with your content. So I think that's really the importance of it. But when we talk about like high impact videos, and we can dig into this in a little bit, video for video's sake is always a bad idea, in my opinion. You want to be really strategic with what you're doing. It's like the messaging, who your target audience is, what do they want to learn or know or see from you. So that's kind of another piece of it too, is like not only just doing it as a tactic, but like, why are you doing it and the strategy behind it.
So having a strategy, having a plan, and there's probably different, not just different channels, but different types of video to tell different stories within for your company to reach your ideal client profile, right? To get out to them. I I look at it as, there's tips and stuff that you can give people that help them. It'd be inspirational. You can challenge them on the way that they're thinking, right? Those are sort of the things that you're talking about, rather than just doing a video for the sake of, putting your face out there on social media.
Exactly. And the framework that I follow, that I teach a lot of my clients, happy to share it with you guys too. I'm actually put a slight manuscript together for a book to talk about it, because I get a lot of people like, what do we do? Like, how does this make sense? So kind of the structure, if you can visualize, if you're listening, is a pyramid, and I call it the video importance pyramid. So think of like the old school food pyramid you had in grade school, where like, what it was, grains were at the bottom. I'm sure now like Michelle Obama flipped it around. Now it's veggies or whatever. I don't know what it is now, but basically the bottom
Sure.
level that were grains, like the foundational stuff. What I always like to call is the anchor video. So this is like a video business card, promo video. There's a bunch of different synonyms for it, but basically it's a 2-minute video that says who you are, what you do, and how you're different. Those are like the cornerstone. If you have one video professionally made for you, that's like the video, because you can use it for 5 or more years as long as your business doesn't change drastically on what you do, who you serve, that type of thing. So that's the main cornerstone that I always tell people. Like, if you're going to get one of those, because you can use it everywhere. If you're speaking at a luncheon or an event, you're doing an expo, if you're doing a sales meeting, if you're onboarding a new employee, like, you can use it everywhere. So that's the first
Mm-hmm.
main video. The next step up is sales videos. So obviously those are ones that you're trying to sell something, bottom of funnel prospects on why you're a good service provider to use, or customer testimonials, those types of things. Or if they're going to purchase something, like why you're better than the competition. So the reason those aren't the most important is because you only use them maybe 25% of the time, compared to a video business card you can use all the time for every situation. So then we go up to the next step, which is social proof, which is one of my favorites to do, because they end up becoming video business cards and sales videos, because you just interview people that have worked with your business on why is this customers, and how their experience has been, and why other people should work with you, and that type of thing. So that's the social proof side of it. The next step up is search videos. So this is really leaning into YouTube, which we can talk about a little bit, but optimizing your videos for search so people can find you. So this is on YouTube. This is on TikTok now. Searchability on TikTok's really big. Basically, if people are going to a search bar to look up a topic or learn, your video can come to the top of the search rankings so people can find you organically, and you can then upsell your service, or get a lead lit, or build your lead list, or whatever you're trying to do. So we can talk about that too. And then the last piece, which is what everybody's probably thinking about when they started listening to this podcast, is micro content, which is things that go out on social media. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, those things. But the reason they're at the very
Mhm.
top is because they're like sugar, or like the, the least desirable thing on the food pyramid. It gives you a little boost of energy, like a sugar high, and then you come right down from it and you crash. So you have to constantly keep feeding that beast, which kind of is hard for a lot of people listening to this, because unless you have somebody full time in house or you have a strategy, it's like, well, crap, I just uploaded a video 2 days ago and now it's like no one's watching it. I got to make another one. So it's like this constant addiction, so to speak, that you have to keep putting out content. So that's kind of the framework that I like to follow when I try to put together video strategies for clients. It's like, how do we hit some of these really foundational things with what we're doing so you can use them in multiple places and get the biggest impact out for what you're doing.
There's a process there. There's a strategy there that um, helps somebody understand, a way to approach video. And so if you start to build out a library of the sugar, the frosting, right, the top of that little pyramid you're talking about, eventually you can recycle those and start to use those in different spots. But if you don't have the foundation to support it, then that just kind of becomes clutter out there, right? It's if you're not really have something substantial for people to go dive into.
Absolutely.
So that's why your pyramid idea is a solid metaphor to be able to like to do that, to do the short ones, the simple stuff, the sweet things. You need to have that foundation underneath it to give you that credibility and ability for people to go in and dig a little deeper once they see something they like or hear something they like. It's a great metaphor. So let's talk a little bit about. I want to come back to online courses, but since you brought up YouTube, you know, being able to be searchable. What is it that somebody does in video? Are there tags? Are there words that you use? How does that work?
Yeah. So YouTube SEO is a really fun topic. We could probably do a whole show just on that one topic because there's so much to it. The main
Hmm.
thing though, from people, if you're just thinking about meeting people at the search bar, is what I always tell people. So if you're selling something or you have a service or a product, think about the things people would be looking up. Obviously, if they're doing Google search, but YouTube is owned by Google, and YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world after Google, and they're tied together. So by doing that, you can kind of get in front of people. So good example is I did a video that has, I think, 300,000 views on it that I intentionally got ranked in search because I wanted to test this theory like 4 or 5 years ago. So I looked up the topic GoPro photography in the search bar and saw there was like 5,000 people a month that searched that topic. And then I looked up how many videos there were, and there was only, I want to say, 5 to 10,000 videos, which is very low for a search query. Usually there's like millions, right? So what I
Okay.
did was I watched the top 5 videos, took notes on all 5, picked out the best ones that I liked, and then made my own adjustments to them on my tips on how to take better pictures on a GoPro. And then I made a video about GoPro photography. So then what I did was the tactical piece of it was I titled the video GoPro photography, which has the keyword in it. I put the keyword in the tags of the video, so GoPro photography everywhere. You can put hashtags in
Hmm.
the description box that say hashtag GoPro photography. And then in the description box, the first couple of lines, if you basically cake that keyword into the description. So today we're going to talk about GoPro photography, how to take better GoPro photos, and blah, blah, blah. Like you're using that in the description. And then the last piece was I named the video file GoProphotography.mp4 when I uploaded it to YouTube. So I basically told Google and YouTube, hey, this video is about GoPro photography. And I,
Made it pretty clear.
yes, extremely clear. And lo and behold, it got ranked. It gets, thousands of views a month still to this day. It's still making AdSense revenue. I still get affiliate commissions on the back end of people buying the GoPro I'm talking about in the video. And that's just one small example of it. So think about it in an application to whoever's business is listening to this. If you're a plumber, it's like, okay, how to fix a common issue with your toilet or sink or whatever it is, like, or, whatever solution that you have for your business can be. And then you basically just create a library of learning, educational, search-based content that people can find you. And then really the way that you use YouTube to grow your business is after someone's watched the valuable video, you say, hey, if you'd like to get this free thing, go to my website and get an opt-in, go to my opt-in page, and you can collect the leads that way. You can directly sell at the end if you want, which I don't really recommend. Always building the email list is my favorite. And there's a bunch of other
Sure.
tactics you can do, but I've also dabbled into online courses, which we've mentioned a couple times. That's been a great way for me to monetize. Is to one, I'll build an email list and then I'll upsell in the emails later on. But I think from YouTube alone, I get about 20 to 30 new leads every week from videos that I've made over the past 5 or 6 years. I haven't looked at for years, but they're still working for me in the background. So I always say YouTube's kind of like the old school Warren Buffett style of investing. It's like little chunks at a time that really pay off down the line, where,
Hmm.
social media is really like roll the dice, just try to grab the next quick thing type investing. So like YouTube's kind of the old school Warren Buffett style, and then social media is kind of just the see if we can get lucky at the roulette table type of strategy to it.
Yeah, but I love that analogy where you're building something out in YouTube, you're putting it there, people can find it if you tag things right, if you name them right, they become ranked in the search engine, and then you're out there on social media and connecting those, getting people to go back and forth. There's a tail. People need to be patient. Is that fair? People need to be patient about what they're putting out there because it's not going to just instantly turn into um, connections with people to make sales. It's about you got to create some value for people. You got to create that credibility. But once it's out there, it becomes part of the environment, and people can go find something and turn it into a revenue down the road. It's got a long tail.
Absolutely.
So you have to be
And
patient.
it really, I think when people look at impact that they want to make online with whatever they're doing, I would say YouTube really is the mother of all of it, because I've had so many back end business deals come from my YouTube channel. I've started another business with a partner from someone that found me on YouTube. I've been asked to come fly out to come speak at conferences. I've had clients reach out and say, "Hey, I saw the video B-roll that you did from your client work. Can you come fly to my state and shoot my video?" Like, there's so many things that come from it, right? So just being the face of it, I think, is huge. And then again, like I said, if it's more of a longer term play, but if you end up doing things down the road, that social capital is huge. It's like, holy crap, Walter, I saw your video about whatever 5 years ago. Like, I recognize you, and now it's like we have a connection, whether it
Hmm.
was it was that or something else. But it's like you're much more credible to me as a person, because it's like I've seen you before and I found you on my own. So that must mean something. There's a lot of those things that go into it, which is really nice to kind of have that social capital piece.
Yeah, and that's a great way to look at it. Is you're building capital, you're building a inventory for people to be able to see that it's. I would imagine that you want the quality to be there, right? You want it to look professional, but it's more about what you're saying and what you're offering and that value you're creating. You can't just go out there and smile and be cute. You got to be actually deliver something that's meaningful. What is there a rule of thumb for somebody that's wants to start creating those kinds of videos about the things that people would search for? Are those 5 minute videos, 30-second videos, 2 minute? Is there any variation there that
Sure,
matters?
yeah, I would say a good starting point to do if you want to do something like that. One would just be to start a channel; it's free. And then second, just look at your FAQs on your website, or think about things that people ask you all the time when you're in the weeds with people. It's like, again, with the plumber situation, it's like, how do I avoid a backup, or how do I make sure that my sink doesn't drain, or whatever the problems are that would get them to you as a business owner.
Yep.
Reverse engineer those and then make a list of them. And then what I always tell people is, if you don't have more than 50 like ideas for a video, like 50 different videos, you probably shouldn't start a channel or try to really focus on it, because even if you put out a video a week for 1 year, great, that's 1 year. But then it's like, well, crap, I'm out of ideas. Like, this is a waste of time. If you can go a little bit more broad in your niche, if you need to, you can do that too. But I would say start with your FAQs and don't really worry so much about like how long the video is. Just make sure that it's going to be as long as it needs to be, and like answer questions for people. And know with YouTube that people are more likely to watch a longer video if it's helpful to them. I know I've watched
Hmm.
probably an hour long training on when, like, years ago when I wanted to learn how to run Facebook ads. I watched this one guy's free video. It was like a 3 hour training. He just did a screen share of like how to set up the ads. I watched every second of it because I'm like learning, and I don't, I want to watch that. Where if you're, telling a long your life story about God knows what, and it's like, I don't care about this, like, I'm going to skip off of it. So I think as long
Right.
as your viewer centrism is so important, like, don't ever start recording anything unless it's going to help somebody, and how it's going to help them, or give them some value, entertain them, or whatever it is. Because if you're just there to just talk about yourself and inflate yourself, it doesn't do no justice to anybody.
Doesn't land, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it
Exactly. So
doesn't land. And being authentic is important too.
absolutely. Yep. Yep. Just being real with people, I think, is huge, and transparency and clear, like just being clear with people is becoming much more trendy than it was. Like, some of these large companies that are out there that have been really established in the industry, they don't really have a voice in this digital space because they don't think they need to. Those people are going to slowly become dinosaurs just because the new and up and coming people will have like documented their entire process. They've put it on YouTube or whatever. And we're seeing this in all these different industries. I think of like Ghost Lifestyle, they're a supplement company in Chicago, and they're really a huge break into the fitness industry for health and fitness supplements, energy drinks, all this stuff, because they document how their company started, the hardships. They have a videographer that just follows them around, puts it up everywhere, and then they do these awesome collaborations with other brands that people recognize, like Chips Ahoy protein shakes, and like Sour Patch Kids, and all these like Nerds, and all these different like flavors that people recognize. Plus, they've seen them online before, and it's like this like marketing masterpiece that just makes them go. There's a lot of companies like
Hmm.
that are really standing out compared to other people that are titans in their industry.
So that really helps. There's a lot of value there, helping the audience understand the importance, having a strategy around it, and then some techniques to use. That's great stuff. So let's talk about online courses, making those scalable, um, and having an idea. So let's say that somebody has an idea for creating some sort of training, um, and those courses, it's all going to be video. Is there, in your opinion, is there needed to have some sort of PDF workbook associated with it? Do we need some other visuals, or is it just a video? How do you go about helping a client? And I like your plumber example, right? Because everybody understands what a plumber does, but then they don't understand what a plumber does, right? Because that's why we need
Mm-hmm.
plumbers. Um, so if they're going to put together some basic home improvement, or basic home maintenance for that young couple that's trying to make sure that they don't their house doesn't fall apart, right? So they got leaky sinks, leaky faucets, stuffed up drains, toilets that get backed up, right? What's the strategy? What's the approach to creating a course like that?
Sure, sure. So I think, and just for context for everybody, I have two online courses of my own, and I've helped two other clients launch theirs from scratch too. So these exercises are always fun for me. It's like, how do we make this better? The main thing I would say, like if you're going to create an online course, the first thing you need to do is try and figure out who your target audience is, who the person is, and B, what the transformation is, because people don't buy online courses just to learn things. They buy them for the transformation. Like for a good example, I bought a course that was a course called Course Creator Pro. It teaches people how to create 6 and 7 figure online courses and how to build the program out, how to run the ads. The transformation is to go from having an idea to doing some of this stuff crazier. The same thing with my course, Solo Video Pro. It's my first one I ever started, and it teaches videographers how to take their hobby with a camera and make a part or full-time income from it. So it teaches the sales, the marketing, the scalability, the software, all the stuff like that. So that's really the nexus of it. So once you have your audience, you know who it is. In my case, it'd be videographers that are 20 to 30 years old that are just starting out in the industry or have a hobby with it. Transformation is start and grow a business to do every step A to Z. Then you got an idea. It's like, okay, see how many people are in that niche who have that problem, and if there's a viability, then go for it. But in terms of creating the actual course, I would say test it out in your audience first before you, because I always say people think courses are kind of a treasure chest, like you take 2 weeks to make it and then it's just making you millions throughout the course of the lifetime. It's a lot more work than people recognize or realize. I will say that now, if you're thinking about doing a course and you're not ready to really commit to it, maybe find something else. But if you're really looking at that and you're kind of on the fence there, I would say really start with an MVP or a minimum viable product. Put out 5-10 videos and just see if people like them. Ask questions about it. Maybe find somebody that's your ideal avatar and have them go through your program for free, and then get a review or ask them feedback and kind of quiz them at the end so you can make it better. I will say, like my Solo Video Pro, when I launched it, it was called the Start and Scale Videography Business Course. Talk about a mouthful.
Hmm.
Ran that for a year, basically got no traction. And then I really invested in other courses, reading material, learning about how that space worked, rebranded it, beefed up the video catalog, the transformations, got feedback from clients, and then I relaunched it and it started doing better. So there's a lot to it, but in terms of like getting off the ground, I would just say start with an MVP, get a couple videos out there, see if people actually are wanting to learn more about this stuff, and then you can reiterate as time goes on.
Talk to your avatar, talk to your dot, make sure that what you're what you're thinking is relevant. Show them the videos, get good feedback from the potential audience. Pivot, do whatever you need to do, but it really starts with, I think, thinking about who you're trying to speak to, right? If we don't have clarity about who that audience is, then how do you have a good conversation with them? That's effectively what you're doing. You're talking to them to add value. And if you're not clear who that is and how they think and what they think about, it's where you're missing, and you're never gonna land with those people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to offer up an idea here, and you tell me if you think this makes sense. I learned this a couple of weeks ago from a colleague, that if you take some time on a regular basis, whether that's once a week or once every couple of days, and you grab a journal and you write about what your avatar, how they think about a situation. So let's say you're trying to you want to help them with culture. So how does that individual, so in my case, maybe it's a CEO or president of an organization, I start to think about how he or she talks to their employees. How do they communicate their ideas to their employees? What are those things that are relevant? Where do they struggle with that? And you get a bunch of ideas down, and then you go have a conversation with one of your customers, and is this real? Is this how you think? Are these the troubles that you have? Is this the structure that you use? And you can start to, it's not A/B testing, but it's really just trying to work it through so you get it as tight as possible. And when you're describing that process of building out a course, that's what I was thinking of. It's like, get clear on who you are, who you're talking to, why it's relevant, how you're going to help them, and make them as long as they need to be helpful. No longer, no shorter.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think just people always want to bite off the mammoth by like just one whole bite. Like you got to take a little chunk at a time. You can't just it's like writing a book, right? You don't write the entire thing in one setting. You do like a couple chapters, you get the manuscript, couple chapters, and you get like there's so many different ways to do it, but I think as that course space has evolved and a lot of people hear some of the success people have, it's like you almost get heart eyes and just kind of look past all the hard work that's going to take to get an MVP out to the world and hope that it sticks and it helps people. So
It always takes longer than we think if you want to do it well. If you just want to throw crap out there, yeah, that's easy.
mm-hmm.
So, is there a tip? So you got somebody that go back like maybe 8 years ago, where you're just kind of getting started, and this person wants to start doing some videos, but they don't have a lot of resources, and they got a phone. Maybe they have an inexpensive camera that they bought at Target. But what advice would you give somebody? What little tips would you give them as to how to record those first videos so that they don't look like a doofus out there at social media, and they get off to a good start?
Sure. I would say for somebody just starting out, I always recommend people do short form, just disposable content just to kind of get the ropes going. So this is really common in like Instagram stories, right? If you have a company account, hop on your Instagram story and start talking to your phone. You can delete them. If you post it and you hate it, it's only up for 24 hours and it's gone. Like you can kind of just get your feet wet in how that works. And that could be behind the scenes tours of your business and what you're doing. Say you own a woodworking shop that builds custom furniture. You could just go in the shop and record as your craftsmen are like building the thing, doing the thing. If you own a manufacturing company, showing the thing being made on the conveyor belt or blueprints or whatever. There's so many things you can do of just documenting what you're doing. I would say that's probably like the first step. Now, if you're wanting to kind of become, again, a personality beyond camera, again, just start whipping out your phone and doing selfie videos, and then you'll start evolving as you go there. Because it really is like a skill. I mean, I've been doing this I've been on YouTube for over 10 years now, and it's like, I'm just used to talking to a camera, being behind the camera, in front of the camera. Like, it's just kind of what I do now. But I have to recognize that a lot of people just aren't comfortable in that situation. So just expose yourself to the uncomfortability. It's kind of just like jumping in a cold shower. You just kind of jump in. You don't want to you just want to get in there, get uncomfortable, and then get like after a while, the water won't be as cold to you. And then you're like, oh, I've done this before. And then you can always remember, you can always delete things. Even if you put up a YouTube video and then a couple of days later, you're like, can't do this. I recommend keeping it up because I even have my crappy stuff from the very, very beginning. If you want to go back on my YouTube channel, it's still there because it started the learning process. Your first 20 videos are probably going to suck, and that's fine.
Yeah, but it's real. Like you could actually, in time, you could go back and say, like, look at these almost like blooper reels, almost, right? My early stage. Look how we've progressed. Look, and showing that, being vulnerable to be able to do that. It gives you that authenticity. I remember like when I started this podcast, it was just audio, and then everybody was like, you really should do video. It should be something that you're part of it, and I resisted it, not because it costs more to do. I resisted it because I just didn't want to be in front of the camera. Um, I don't enjoy having my photo taken. I don't enjoy, being on video. The old adage, right? You've got a face for radio. It just wasn't something that was interesting. But I jumped in, and it's like, oh, it's not so bad. It actually makes people understand who you are in a lot faster. I think when somebody can, hear you, see you, all of the things that happen in a conversation occur in the video, right? And we get that connection so much quicker. That's why I think Zoom works as a instead of being across the table from each other. You're in Iowa, I'm in Michigan. This would be really hard to pull off if we didn't have this technology. So I think it's just something everybody's got to get comfortable with and jump into the cold shower, as you say.
Absolutely.
Is there before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share about the course that you have? Because I think there's some value there for the listeners to be able to go to your site. We'll have the site on the website, but you want to talk about what you're offering there?
Sure, yeah. So I have two courses. One's Solo Video Pro, which I mentioned, which helps videographers start and grow a business from scratch. So that's, if anyone on here is a videographer, that would be helpful to you. If you're not, it probably wouldn't be. Another one is the 6-figure fitness filmmaker course, which I started, which helps videographers break into the fitness niche, because I've had a lot of success shooting for supplement companies and fitness brands, gyms, that type of thing. So that helps them basically start from scratch and then build into that business model as well. And then the last thing would just be really, I've helped a lot of people with, I have a bunch of free stuff on my business site, my video production site, Snaadt Media Group. So I'm sure I'll share a link with that for Walter. You can check out all the different stuff there. A lot of stuff on the blog that could help you from the marketing standpoint, because if there's a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs that listen to this show, marketing is always a concern for people. So there's a lot of free stuff on the blog that I'm sure could help people just kind of get a better grasp on video marketing, how to do it for the cheap for yourself, or if you're looking to hire people, like what to look for in a video producer wherever you are. Because even if it's not me, I always share tips on what to look for people to make sure they're getting the right partner for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, sometimes it's geography, sometimes it's personality, but just being helpful to people is important. So I appreciate that. So, sort of last question I like to use to wrap up: does Ryan have a relationship with cigars?
So it's funny you bring this up. So I'm a big whiskey guy, and my friends and I, when we went to Clearwater Beach, Florida for spring break, all my buddies got Cuban cigars and went out to the beach, and we tried to smoke these things together and have a whiskey and just kind of get together. Not a big smoker myself, but I'm like, oh, it's the thing. We're on the beach, we're having a whiskey, but I'll try a cigar. And apparently there's a difference between inhaling and just puffing on it. I did not know, because I had never smoked a cigar properly before. took a huge
Okay.
inhale of this Cuban cigar, and I was hacking up a lung for like 3 or 4 hours. It was hilarious. So my buddies were all laughing at me and whatnot. So whenever we get together, a lot of them love doing the cigar bars, but I tend to just stick with whiskey anymore. But it's kind of a funny memory. I always think when I think of cigars, I think of me on the beach in the dark hacking up a lung because I full blown inhaled a cigar.
You're not the only person that their first experience was that, because when it's a terrible idea, you probably turned green. It was just, you were in the dark, nobody could tell. Um, yeah. When you say whiskey, you're talking bourbon, you're talking scotch. What do you
Yeah, yeah, any all
blend?
the above. I've been getting into more bourbon and scotch lately because I'll get nicer stuff. One of my buddies collects or has a whole area in his house that has a lot of stuff. So we'll try some different stuff. But my wife and I both like whiskey, so we tend to have that in the house and nice little sipper at night just to kind of cap off a busy day. So
Yep. Yeah, it's a good pairing with cigars. I mean, but I'm sort of biased. I can pair a cigar with a glass of port or a glass of wine, or my go-to is bourbon. I'm a bourbon
oh, there
guy.
you go.
So
What's your favorite kind of bourbon that you like lately?
my favorite bourbon is Willet.
Okay,
It's hard to find where I live, but I have a daughter that goes to the University of Kentucky, so we have access to a lot more bourbon in Lexington than we do than up in here in Michigan. But yeah, I mean, I started with not bourbon; it was Jack Daniel's when I was younger. My first ever alcoholic drink was a Jim Beam and ginger ale with my
there
uncle.
you go.
Um, can't drink that now; it's a little too sweet. But I'm good with a nice, smooth, kind of caramely bourbon. You know, just a little drink at the end of the evening, or with a friend. That's, to me, is what it's all about. Cigars and bourbon is to be shared, um, and sit around a room and talk smart, try to solve the world's
There
problems,
you go. You got it all figured out.
but not inhaling. That's a good tip. That's another good tip. But Brian, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll have all this info in the show notes. So I definitely recommend going to the website for people that are, trying to figure out how to do video, because you got some good tips in there. I
Absolutely.
really
Well,
appreciate
thanks for
you.
having me on, Walter.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.